In the early 8th century, the world was changing faster than anyone alive could fully understand. Empires that had endured for centuries were collapsing in a matter of years. Borders that once felt eternal were dissolving like mist beneath the sun. And across 3 continents, one power seemed unstoppable. By the year 732 AD, the armies of the Umayyad Caliphate had already achieved what no force in history ever had before. They had erased the ancient Persian Empire from the map. They had seized Syria, Egypt, and North Africa from the Eastern Romans. They had crossed deserts, mountains, and seas. They had stood before the walls of Constantinople itself. And now, they stood at the gates of Europe. In 732 AD, Europe came closer to collapse than almost anyone realizes. One army was advancing north. One man stood in its way. If he failed, Europe as you know it would never exist. Not Iberia, not frontier lands, but the heartlands beyond the Pyrenees, lands that had never faced an enemy like this. To the men marching north, this was not conquest, it was destiny.
Two decades earlier, in 711 AD, an army led by Tariq ibn Ziyad crossed the narrow waters of the Strait of Gibraltar. Within a single generation, Visigothic Spain collapsed. Cities fell without sieges. Nobles switched sides. Kings vanished from history. By 720, the province of Al-Andalus was firmly under Umayyad control, governed, taxed, and defended. From Córdoba to Zaragoza, the banners of the Caliphate flew unchallenged. But the conquests did not stop at the Pyrenees. They never did.
Beyond the mountains lay Gaul, modern France. To the Umayyad leadership, it represented more than land. Gaul was wealthy. Its river valleys fed cities and armies. Its fields could sustain generations of soldiers. And beyond Gaul lay even richer prizes. The Rhone, the Loire, the Rhine. If these were taken, nothing stood between the Caliphate and the cold forests of Germania. And there was one man determined to make that happen.
In 731 AD, the Umayyad governor of Al-Andalus, Abd al-Rahman al-Ghafiqi, assembled one of the largest expeditionary forces ever seen in the West. Arab cavalry, Berber warriors, veterans hardened by years of conquest. This was not a raid, it was an invasion. Chroniclers describe entire families traveling with the army, wives, children, servants, a sign that this was meant to be permanent. Cities burned as the army advanced north. Bordeaux fell. Aquitaine was devastated. Duke Odo of Aquitaine was crushed in battle and fled. Nothing slowed the advance. Nothing resisted it.
And yet, far to the north, another force was watching. Not an empire, not a king, but a man forged by war, betrayal, and survival. His name was Charles. History would remember him as Charles Martel, the Hammer. But in 732 AD, he was something else entirely. A ruler without a crown, a warlord holding together a fractured Frankish realm by sheer will. And he knew something that Abd al-Rahman did not. This invasion would not be stopped by walls, or cities, or negotiations. It would be stopped by blood. As the Umayyad army pushed deeper into Gaul, laden with plunder and confidence, Charles Martel began to move. Not to defend cities, not to save Aquitaine, but to choose the ground where the fate of Europe itself would be decided. And when the two armies finally came face to face, neither would leave unchanged.
The Frankish realm was not a united kingdom. It never had been. Power lay not with kings, but with mayors of the palace, war leaders who commanded armies while weak monarchs wore crowns. And among them, none was more dangerous than Charles Martel.
Charles had spent his life fighting. He fought rebellious nobles. He fought rival claimants. He fought former allies. Every victory hardened him. Every betrayal taught him caution. Unlike the Visigoths of Spain, Charles ruled men who expected war. Frankish society was brutal, decentralized, and relentlessly martial. Every free man was a soldier. Every village could raise fighters, and Charles knew how to use them.
The Umayyad army relied on speed, cavalry, shock, relentless forward momentum. The Frankish army was the opposite. Infantry, heavy shields, axes, and spears. They did not charge, they waited. Charles understood something crucial. If his men broke, Europe would break with them. So he refused battle again and again. For days, the two armies shadowed one another near the city of Tours. Skirmishes flared, tension grew. The Umayyads expected the Franks to attack. They never did. Charles chose a wooded plateau, cold, uneven, hostile to cavalry. Here, horses could not charge freely. Here, speed meant nothing. The Franks formed a dense shield wall, ranks packed tight, unmoving. Arab chroniclers would later describe them as a wall of ice. al-Rahman faced a choice: wait and risk losing momentum, supplies, and morale, or attack and trust in the power that had never failed him before. History records that he chose to attack because until that day, no army had ever stood before the Umayyads and refused to break.
As the sun dipped low and the horns sounded, cavalry began to move. Thousands of riders spurred forward. Steel flashed, the ground shook, and Europe held its breath. The Umayyad cavalry surged forward in waves. Thousands of riders, armor glinting beneath the autumn sun, thundered toward the Frankish line. To them, this was a familiar sight. Infantry always broke. They always ran. But this time, something was wrong. The Franks did not move. They did not shout. They did not advance. They stood. A solid mass of shields, spears braced, men packed so tightly that no rider could slip between them. The first impact came like a storm breaking against stone. Horses screamed as they slammed into the wall. Riders were hurled from their saddles. Axes rose and fell. The Frankish line bent, but it did not break. Again and again the cavalry charged. Again and again they were thrown back.
This was not a chaotic melee. It was controlled, disciplined, brutal. Charles Martel had forbidden pursuit. No chasing fleeing riders, no breaking formation. Every Frank knew his role: hold the line. Hours passed. The battlefield became a killing ground where speed meant nothing and strength meant everything. Arab chroniclers would later write that the Franks fought like a wall, immobile, silent, terrifying. As evening approached, the temperature dropped. The Frankish warriors were used to cold. The Umayyad cavalry was not. Horses slowed, arms tired, momentum faded, and then something happened that al-Rahman had not anticipated.
A cry went up behind the Umayyad lines. Frankish raiders, possibly sent deliberately by Charles, had struck the Umayyad camp. The camp where the plunder was stored, where families waited, where the spoils of Gaul were piled high. Panic rippled through the cavalry. Some riders turned back, others hesitated. The formation began to loosen. For the first time that day, the Umayyad army lost cohesion.
Charles Martel saw the confusion. He did not order a charge. He waited. He knew that if he moved too soon, discipline would shatter. So the Franks stood firm, watching the enemy begin to unravel itself.
As night crept across the battlefield, al-Rahman realized the truth. This was not another conquest. This was a trap, and he was standing at its center.
As darkness deepened, al-Rahman rode forward. He understood that the battle was slipping from his grasp. Only one thing could save it: leadership.
The Umayyad commander rallied his men personally. He rode into the thickest fighting. He shouted orders. He tried to restore momentum. But in doing so, he exposed himself. Frankish warriors surged forward. Axes swung. Spears thrust. And somewhere in the chaos, Abd al-Rahman fell. Struck down amidst the press of bodies, his death went unnoticed at first. But when word spread, morale collapsed. The army that had conquered half a continent froze. The fighting slowed, then stopped. Both sides waited for dawn. The Franks held their ground, weapons ready. But when morning came, the Umayyad camp was empty.
Under cover of darkness, the Umayyad army withdrew. Quietly, orderly at first, then faster. They left behind tents, supplies, wounded men. They crossed back toward the Pyrenees, not as conquerors, but as survivors. Charles Martel did not pursue. He did not need to. The threat had passed.
At the time, few realized what had happened. There was no grand proclamation, no immediate transformation, but history had shifted. For the first time, the Umayyad expansion into Western Europe had been stopped. Not delayed, stopped. And yet, the true importance of Tours would only become clear decades later, when Europe began to change in ways no one on that battlefield could have imagined.
The Battle of Tours did not destroy the Umayyad Caliphate. It did not end Al-Andalus, but it did something far more important. It set a limit. After 732 AD, large-scale Umayyad invasions north of the Pyrenees ceased. Raids continued, skirmishes flared, but the dream of pushing deep into Gaul, toward the Rhine and beyond, quietly died. The Caliphate turned inward. Civil wars erupted. Leadership fractured. Within 2 decades, the Umayyad dynasty itself would fall in the east.
Charles Martel's victory paved the way for something. His descendants would rule as kings. His grandson would become Charlemagne. An empire would rise, not Roman, not Islamic, but European. Monasteries would flourish, kingdoms would solidify, borders would harden, and slowly, over centuries, a civilization would take shape.
This battle matters not because it was large, but because it was decisive. Because one army refused to run. Because one leader understood terrain, discipline, and patience. Because on a cold field in 732 AD, Europe did not fall. It stood.
Now here's the real question. Was the Battle of Tours truly the moment Europe was saved? Or has its importance been exaggerated by later generations? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history's turning points, like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves real history, not just legends. This is Time's battlefield, where history is decided, one battle at a time.